Welcome to today's Explainer. We are jumping right into something completely gripping today. We're going to unpack this fascinating, dark, cinematic concept for a true crime story called The Last Ride Home. It's actually designed as a pitch for platforms like YouTube Shorts and TikTok, built to be rendered in hyper-realistic 3D using tools like Unreal Engine or Blender. But beyond the amazing visual potential, the volumetric fog, the moody lighting, it really acts as a stark deconstruction of something very real, which is the hidden vulnerabilities of the gig economy. So we're going to break down the timeline, the evidence, and the intense investigation of this fictionalized, yet incredibly grounded story. Let's get into it. So everything kicks off with this deceptively simple premise. On October 12th, 2019, Ethan Cole accepted what looked like a normal late-night ride. Now picture a hyper-realistic, incredibly heavy rainstorm in Chicago. Cinematic rain is falling, neon lights are reflecting off the wet pavement, and it's 1:43 in the morning. Ethan is this quiet, totally exhausted 42-year-old taxi driver just trying to finish up his shift. He's probably thinking, just one last fare before I can finally go home. But as you'll see, an entirely ordinary shift can spiral into an absolute nightmare in the blink of an eye. To really understand the stakes here, you have to look at the massive contrast between these two worlds. Inside the taxi, we see Ethan's life, a faded family photo, some cold coffee, and unpaid electricity bills sitting right there. He's a widower working these brutal extra hours just to chip away at his 10-year-old daughter Lily's hospital debts. Now contrast that with the passenger outside. It's a figure standing under a broken streetlight in a black hoodie. His face is completely hidden. He's wearing muddy boots, and alarmingly, he doesn't have a phone or a bag. The story masterfully places Ethan's desperate, deeply human world right up against this silent, menacing stranger stepping into his cab. Let's trace the timeline of these events because it is just relentless. Look at how fast this moves. At 1:38 a.m., Ethan is just an exhausted driver listening to storm warnings on the radio. 5 minutes later, at 1:43 a.m., he picks up the passenger. Then there's a single traffic camera blip at 2:06 a.m., and by 2:07 a.m., they pull up to an abandoned warehouse. The pacing is incredibly tight. We're talking about a narrow 30-minute window where a totally routine gig economy transaction goes completely off the rails. It really highlights how fast isolation can turn into absolute danger. As the ride progresses, you can feel the tension just skyrocket. The GPS starts glitching out. Ethan keeps catching the passenger intensely staring at him in the rearview mirror. And then, when the GPS tells Ethan to turn right, the passenger leans forward and drops this chilling line. "I said left." Boom. That is the exact moment the passenger asserts total control. The route suddenly shifts toward the desolate East River Road. Ethan's intuition is absolutely screaming that something is wrong, so he quietly reaches down and secretly activates his dashboard camera. Fast forward to the next morning. It's 8:15 a.m. Ethan's daughter Lily wakes up entirely alone. Her father never came home. And as the police start looking into this, they uncover a terrifying number: 6. Ethan was an isolated case. Investigators realized he was actually the sixth person to just vanish in this exact same area over the last 18 months. So we aren't just looking at a missing persons case anymore. We're looking at a horrific pattern. The media had already dubbed it the rain night disappearances. It was a series of unsolved cases where lone travelers just disappeared near the industrial district, always during heavy storms. This, of course, sparked citywide panic. The authorities were totally stumped. No bodies, no real evidence, just tire tracks completely washed away by the relentless rain. Which brings us to the biggest question of the whole investigation. What really happened to Ethan Cole? This is the turning point in the story, where we meet Detective Sarah Reyes. She's the lead investigator, and she just flat out refuses to believe that a man can simply evaporate into thin air. While everyone else is looking at dead ends washed away by the storm, she decides to hunt for the digital footprints left behind. And her methodology is absolutely meticulous. She starts by reviewing these heavily damaged traffic cams near East River Road and manages to pull a single surviving frame at exactly 2:06 a.m. And in that frame, this is the massive breakthrough, she spots a black van with no license plates tailing Ethan's taxi. That proved right there that this wasn't some random crime. It was a highly professional, organized kidnapping ring operating in the shadows. From there, she traces hidden electrical activity straight to a supposedly abandoned warehouse in the industrial district. That piece of intelligence triggers an intense 3:12 a.m. SWAT raid right through the heavy rain. Picture the cinematic lighting here. Flashlights cutting through the dark, gritty fog inside this massive broken-down warehouse. They discover a hidden underground room, and the cache of evidence inside is beyond disturbing. We're talking stolen wallets, IDs, burned phones, bloodstains, chains, and maybe most chillingly, cameras and victim photographs. They had been recording their victims. The police had literally just unearthed the epicenter of the Rain Night disappearances. Right in the middle of all the horrifying chaos in that underground room, one of the officers yells out to Detective Reyes, "Ma'am, you need to see this." Sitting there, perfectly intact in the corner of this awful room, was Ethan's damaged yellow taxi dashboard camera. It was the exact same camera he had secretly turned on when that passenger first forced him off his route. The police actually managed to restore the footage, and you can imagine the room just falling completely silent as they watch Ethan's terrifying final moments. The grainy dashcam overlay shows the taxi pulling up to the warehouse at 2:07 a.m. All of a sudden, 3 masked men step out of the dark, surrounding the car with a crowbar and a handgun. And the passenger in the backseat utters this incredibly sinister phrase, "Wrong place, wrong night," right before one of the masked men violently smashes the taxi window. But man, the tape reveals something else entirely, an act of just unbelievable bravery. Right before that glass shatters, Ethan is seen quietly reaching beneath his dashboard to press the emergency tracker button connected to his dispatch. Ethan knew he was outnumbered. He knew he almost certainly wouldn't survive the night. But in that split second, he made the ultimate sacrifice to ensure his attacker's location would be logged, guaranteeing they would eventually be caught. And because he bravely left that camera running, the police got their golden ticket. Right before the tape cuts to black, the passenger takes off his hood. It's Marcus Vale. Detective Reyes recognizes him instantly. Vale is a highly dangerous former security contractor who had been missing for years, and he was already the prime suspect in several high-level robberies. Armed with that undeniable piece of digital video evidence, the police launch a massive citywide manhunt. They completely dismantle the warehouse network in a matter of days. Vale actually manages to evade capture for 3 weeks, leading up to this wild, dramatic confrontation deep down in the city's subway tunnels where they finally take him down. The evidence they found down there officially tied Vale's entire gang to all 6 of the Rain Night disappearances. So the kidnapping ring is broken, the streets are finally safe from Marcus Vale, and the criminals are put behind bars. But it leaves us hanging on this really heavy question. Justice was served, but at what cost? Because despite making the arrests, and despite solving the city's most terrifying mystery, tragically, Ethan Cole's body was never found. The story concludes months later with this quiet, incredibly heartbreaking scene. Detective Reyes visits Ethan's 10-year-old daughter, Lily. She hands Lily her father's recovered yellow taxi key and just tells her, "Your father saved lives." It is such a powerful, emotional anchor for this dark cinematic tale, right? It's about a hardworking, ordinary father who made the ultimate sacrifice to stop a monster from taking any more innocent lives. So as a concept engineered to be this dark, hyper-realistic 3D short for social media, it really forces us to ask a provocative question. What everyday digital footprints are we leaving behind in the dark? The Last Ride Home uses that true crime cinematic suspense to shine a light on the unseen dangers lurking just beneath the surface of our connected gig economy. It's a stark reminder that sometimes the only things standing between safety and total tragedy are quick thinking and the digital breadcrumbs we leave behind. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep your eyes open, stay curious, and I'll catch you next time.